Plummeting fertility rates in Western countries are a debate since decades among sociologists. Children are too expensive. Children are too stressful. Mothers are too busy nowadays. Why would you want to have children if you instead can buy a pug? Miserable creatures. And don't forget the birth control pill. These things might play a role in plummeting birth rates, but I do not think that they are the source. Being an engineer, I am a friend of practical and plausible solutions. Let us try to take a look at the big picture. I took this German graph because it was the oldest I could find. The left part seems a bit off to me. This part of the graph is based on assumptions. As you can see, recording was started around 1880. Why would fertility rate start dropping from the moment of record? It makes no sense to me. This might be a better representation. So, on this graph, we see the German fertility rates over the last 200 years. As you can see, 200 years ago, the average German woman had about 6 children. Today, the average German woman has about 1.5 children in her life. This does not suffice to sustain the German state. And that is the reason I'm talking about this. Because to me, there seems to be a reason for it. How can this huge drop be explained? It can be seen across Western civilization. I do not think that this can be contributed solely to the First World War. The birth control pill was invented in 1960. This drop began in 1900. What could be the reason for it? Let me just say that Weston Price in the US observed a similar trend in those years, but not in fertility rates. Between 1907 and 1936, the deaths from heart attack increased by 60% in the US. Cancer rates increased by 90% in those years. The occurrence in mental injury in children skyrocketed. The occurrence of physical deformities in children skyrocketed. The crime rate among boys skyrocketed. Something was happening in the Western world. Something so terrible that it would worsen the lives of people across the globe. But what could it be? Well, in the early 20th century, refined carbohydrates were introduced into the standard diet. Things like industrially produced breads and pastas, promoted by large food corporations, were becoming more and more popular. These foods were cheap. That these foods would kill you in return, nobody knew, or did not want to know. A 1930 study led by the food industry itself, in which the correlation between sugar consumption and the occurrence of cancer was researched, was abruptly abandoned. You can guess why. If someone asks you why there have been no studies proving that carbohydrates are poison, now you know why. But I'm straying off the topic. This video is about fertility rates and the state of health of modern women. One of the things that Mr. Price found fascinating was the ease of birth among primitive people. I want to tell you about a particular report of an Eskimo woman. She was the mother of 26 children. During the birth of her last child during nighttime, she did not bother to wake her husband. Instead, she took care of this business herself and without much effort. She decided to wake her husband in the morning with his newborn child. Can you imagine a modern woman doing this? She would be famous in no time, not to mention being the mother of 26 children. Take this as evidence for the superb health of primitive Eskimo, at least as long as they do not come in contact with the modern man's diet. As of now, I know of 2 ways of how to increase fertility. Unfortunately, one of them is out of your reach. It depended on nutritional wisdom of your parents and grandparents. You see, the reason why modern women are having such a hard time with childbirth is the size and shape of their pelvis. Primitive mothers have a round pelvis and belly region, as you can see on these pictures. Even young girls show a round belly and a straight stand. Undoubtedly, these will be great mothers. It has become a trend that slim women are considered beautiful in modern societies. Fact is that even a slight flattening of the pelvis will lead to severe birth difficulties. Unfortunately, today's norm is that most modern women have a kidney-shaped pelvis instead of a round one. Although this woman is considered beautiful in our society, to me her pelvis looks more like that of a man. Since a long time I have a thing for round but healthy looking bellies. I find them cute, now I understand why. The main contributor to pelvis shape is the nutrition of your mother as well as former generations of your family. The less carbohydrates your family consumed, the closer you will be to your genetic peak health. The second contributor to fertility that you can influence is your own nutrition. Vitamin A plays a significant role in your reproductive abilities. In fact, I would go so far as to call vitamin A the most critical nutrient in the growing period of a living being. If you deprive an animal mother from vitamin A, you have acquired the ability to produce monsters without eyes or with 2 heads. Don't worry, these studies have been done. They must have been a lot of fun though. Even a moderate vitamin A deficiency can lead to higher infection rates, lung disease, tuberculosis, inability to breastfeed, and lastly, infertility. I do not want to know how many vegans are infertile by now. My best friend has a child. His wife is unable to breastfeed. I told him to give the child cod liver oil on a regular basis to make up for the missing vitamin A and DHA of the mother's milk. I also told him to give his wife some cod liver oil as well. Maybe she will be able to breastfeed her next child. Wouldn't it be great? In our modern and vitamin-void society, cod liver oil seems to be the best source of vitamin A. If you're planning on having children one day, it is a safe bet to start consuming cod liver oil. Or you could eat canned cod liver. That's how I do it. If you're not planning on having children, do it anyway. Remember how your grandmother forced you to swallow a spoon of cod liver oil in your youth? There was some wisdom to it. But what about men? You did not really think that this would only affect women, did you? Let's talk about your sperm. If you're vitamin A deficient, dear man, you have some lousy pair of sperm cells. Even if these poor vitamin A deficient sperm cells will make it to the ova, there is a high probability that the fertilized cell will be killed off by the female organism. This mechanism is called prenatal death and ensures that only cells with sufficient chance of survivability may grow. If your sperm isn't good enough, she will kill it. So keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, if your diet consists mainly of carbohydrate trash, at least take some cod liver oil now and then. Your unborn children will thank you.